welcome everybody to our live stream. And listen, I know many of you joined us with joined me with John Haller earlier today. Brandon, did you know I had John on a live stream earlier?
I didn't know, man. I was doing other interviews, so that's great that you had John on.
Yeah, he was talking about you and your golf game. And he said you were really good. He kind of implied that he could have beaten you when he was younger. So I don't know.
Okay. There you go.
But it was great. It's great having you. So Brandon, for all of you, I know most of you already know Pastor Brandon, but he serves as the senior pastor at Rock Harbor Church in Bakersfield, California, and speaks at churches and conferences in the U.S. and internationally about the importance of why we need to be bold in our faith. And let me tell you, if you've never heard Brandon or seen him, he's bold in his faith, and he will inspire you to be bold also. And Brandon, he was called to start Rock Harbor Church as a remnant church in this age of apostasy. It's amazing what's happening with the church as he continues to proclaim all the scriptures from Genesis to Revelation, evangelize, disciple, discern the times, the signs of the times, connect the dots prophetically, and contend for the faith. And he holds a bachelor's degree in political science from Columbia University. He also holds both a Master of Arts in Religion degree and a Master of Divinity from Liberty University Baptist Theological Seminary. And Brandon's areas of emphasis include prophecy, discernment, apologetics, Jewish culture and background, biblical worldview, polemics. And Brandon is also a professor of eschatology at Summit Bible College. So there's a lot there, Brandon. There's an awful lot there. And that's great. It's just great having you on the program. I know we've done a lot together, and especially over the last several months. And I feel like, man, I keep dragging you into things. And
no, it's good. I appreciate it.
I hope I don't wear you out.
No, I love it. I love it. Thank you for having me.
Boy, we have a lot to talk about. I want to get into Israel in just a minute.
Yeah.
And I read an article by Mordecai Kadar. I believe we had this conversation when we were in Israel just last week. And this is back in April, where he said, it was a public article. This is what Hamas is going to do. This is why, this is how they're going to do it. And it was like reading the newspaper on October 8th. And then it was Dan Cohen from Newsmax, who we both had the opportunity to spend time with when we were over in Israel. Daniel Cohen is just fantastic, everybody. But he had a video with, I believe it was a Newsmax, even before that. I think it was in March, where he said, hey, this is what's going to happen. So the news is out there. So I want to get to what really happened now, as some things are starting to be behind us and people are starting to say, okay, what happened? But first of all, Brandon, I want to just mention this is both of you and I were going to be in Australia and New Zealand in just a few weeks.
Right.
Billy's going to be with us. Pete Garcia, Mondo, and Kevin and Ken will be with us. It's going to be great, and the live stream is available, and the proceeds go to Gihon Springs, which is fantastic.
Amen. That's great. Looking forward to it. Should be fun, man.
Oh, it's going to be a whole lot of fun. I want to encourage everybody, join us for the live stream. If you're in Australia, I don't know if there's still spots left to join us in Australia. But I know there are some in New Zealand. If you're down in the New Zealand area, join us live there. But again, join us worldwide for the live stream, and know that you're able to not just get great teaching, but also you'll be able to make a great contribution to Gihon Springs and the Messianic outreach that they are doing in Israel. They even have pro-life branch of Gihon Springs ministering to people. It's just fantastic for getting the gospel out in Israel, being able to partner with us and with them in that way. Okay, Amen. Brandon, let me ask you this. Okay, reports were out. Israel, this is going to happen. We come down to October 7, and we find out now, hey, people were literally asleep on the job, not paying any attention, slow response. Not everybody, obviously, was guilty of it, but something really strange was going on. What's your understanding? You've looked into this more than I've had a chance to.
Well, it was a major intelligence ignoring of intelligence. And let me name the players that ignored the intelligence. You had Israeli Defense Forces Intelligence Chief Major General Aaron Halivov. You had the IDF Chief General Staff's General if I could pronounce the names right, Harizi Halevi, and then you had the Southern Commander Major General Yaron Finkelman, and then you had Director Ronan Barn of Shin Bet of Israel's security. All, Tom, were told that Hamas is planning an invasion. Let's start back when they got warning. 2 female survivors of 17 members of the field observers of the Nahal Oz base came forward on Channel 11 in Israel months before the invasion. We're talking about May, okay?
Wow.
Came forward warning these guys that Hamas terrorists are training to take over kibbutzim and IDF bases. They said they were watching the terrorists practice take hostages and blowing up tanks. They saw a terror commander watching the drills, spies probing for fences. They saw it all and they reported it all. And you know what happened? These top-level IDF guys said, stop raising these concerns or we'll remove you from the unit. Second, wow. Raphael Huyan, if I can pronounce his name correctly, it's Hayun. He is a civilian hacker who helped the IDF that monitors intelligent open sources. He had been working with the IDF for years. And even back in late 2019, he had been reporting that Hamas was doing training exercises involving invading Israel and penetrating security point fence at different points, that they had trained to take over communities. They were training to commit mass murder and kidnapping. Anyway, he continues to report this. 5 months before the assault, this is back in May, his colleagues in the IDF were ordered to seize all of his equipment and stop working with him. And then around that time, the IDF Intelligence Directorate Unit 8200 signals that he is to stop all monitoring of Hamas's communications.
Wow.
And basically the military colleagues told him to cut off all his reports and stopped him. Okay, so that's number 2. Third, Channel 11 and Channel 12 and Haaretz, which is a liberal organization, obviously paper, all reported a tactical intelligence of the NCO and Hamas expert of Unit 8200 with 20 years of experience providing detailed reports that Hamas was preparing for a major invasion. Okay? Hamas was using paragliders, they said, pickup trucks, motorcycles, detailed plans of massacre, kidnap civilians, soldiers. They were planning the whole thing. And again, one of this intelligence officer was able to get in front of one of these commanders and top officers of the Southern Command, and one of these guys just blew it off, saying that's just hot air. And then basically was told Haliva, which is one of the Southern commanders, was told not to report this. Okay.
Wow.
Channel 11 reported back in May that Gaza's division intelligence officer created a slide presentation called The Walls of Jericho. And they detailed how Hamas intended to bring down the security fence and invade Israel up to 60 separate points. Okay, so that's Channel 11. Then in a follow-up report in August, Channel 11 did the same thing. The intelligence officer even explained that Hamas intended to carry out its plan either on Shabbat or a holiday, or only on a small cadre of soldiers that were on duty. Now, let's go to October 7th, 4 a.m. 4 a.m., due to warnings of increased Hamas movement near the border fence, the senior security leadership, including the IDF Chief General Staff, General Hughes and Shin Bet Director Ronan Barr, Southern Commander Major General Yaron Finkelman, and Havela's assistants, They were all asleep. They were woken up and they were told that, hey, it appears that they're going to do an invasion. Okay. And so they discussed it and they decided to go back to bed. So Barr, the intelligence guy,
Wow.
he sent a team of fighters to the border area, but that was all he did. The group, Finkelman, Halevi, Halavav, did not inform Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu or Defense Minister Gallant. Instead, they agreed to speak again at 8 a.m. And by 8 a.m., Hamas had invaded by 6:30. So, Tom, you tell me what to make out of that.
Wow.
I mean, it was clear. They knew it. Now, here's the opinion piece about this. Mm-hmm. And this is what really ruffles my feathers. What was found out about how some of these guys was this woke mindset that we even see in the U.S. military. And what was the woke mindset? It was this. The Gazans would never think about doing this because we are giving them economic prosperity by allowing them to come over our borders, do the work visas, come back. And because of the allowance of economic prosperity, they would never think of killing us. How naive is that? Second, the one major guy, Hal Levav, if I'm pronouncing his name right, his family, not him, but his family, the whole last year has been working to undermine the Netanyahu political coalition in the government, working to divide Israel. So we got a lot of weird stuff going on politically in Israel. At the same time, the United States has been undermining the Netanyahu coalition. In fact, according to reports, Blinken has wanted to have separate conversations with Gallant and other leftist members of the National Coalition Party that Israel has formed and exclude Netanyahu from those meetings. So I'm telling you, there's a left side and then there's a conservative side in Israel, and the left side in America is working with the left side in Israel to undermine the conservative element in Israel. And I don't know what to make about these guys receiving reports and not doing anything about it. Heads need to be rolled.
Oh, I was gonna ask you, I mean, what's your thoughts on prosecution of some people? I mean, you start looking at this going, this appears like it's an intentional takedown of the Netanyahu side. And now here's what's weird about this. On the side that we're on, the conservative side here in America, you and I are both seeing all kinds of videos now where you and I are called fools and liars, shills for Israel and things like that.
Yeah.
From these podcasters on the right that are saying this was a plan of Netanyahu to do this. Listen, pretty much anybody knew. I talked with David Tal by October 8. He said this is going to be the end of Netanyahu's prime minister rule because this happened under his watch. And the way I look at it is the way you look at it. No, we knew that when Obama was president, they deliberately, the government here of the Obama administration interfered with the elections in Israel and tried to keep Netanyahu from being elected back then.
Absolutely.
That was happening then. So we've seen Biden. I mean, I see Blinken, okay, he's a Jew, and they're saying Blinken is tied in with this and tied in with Netanyahu, and it's all a master plan by the Netanyahu-Biden administration with the Jews that are there to do this to have more power. I mean, but it couldn't be, I mean, the Blinken administration, I believe it is, but it's not for the purposes that these people are saying. I mean, the Biden-Blinken administration is. Totally.
You're absolutely right. It's the exact opposite, right? And what Americans need to understand, and me being on the ground and you being on the ground in Israel and feeling things out, here's what America needs to understand. America has turned on Israel. And let me explain this a little bit. America with the Blinken administration, the Biden administration, and the leftists in the administration have a pro-Palestinian, pro-Iranian policy. It is not pro-Israel. Now, at the beginning of October 7th until then, now, it looked like Biden's on Israel's side, and people in Israel were cheering him on, thinking he's the great hero. He came over, yada, yada, yada. They don't realize what Biden is wanting is they wanted Hamas eliminated. There's no doubt about that, but they wanted it eliminated so that Mahmoud Abbas can run the Palestinian Authority without encumbrances from Hamas. And so the United States plans to reinstall the Palestinians in control of the Gaza, which Israel says, no, we're not allowing that to happen. Second, so that's a pro-Palestinian policy of the United States. It's not pro-Israel. The second thing that people don't understand, and this is not a conspiracy theory, it is a conspiracy. The United States does want to support Iran. It does want a regional support of Iran in the country, in the region, because they think, this is stupid, just stupid thinking, that if Iran can have strategic wins, then Iran can rein in its proxies like the Houthis and the Hezbollahs and whoever else they control, and then we can have regional stability in the region. The United States has no intentions of stopping Iran's nuclear plan, okay? And so it's a pro-Iranian policy, not a pro-Israel policy. Well, this is going to put Israel in the crosshairs with Hezbollah and the Houthis and whatever. Even with the Houthis, notice what the United States is doing. They're keeping Israel out. They said they don't want you touching the Houthis. We'll take out the tactical targets, but they won't take out the Houthis. They take out their abilities to fire the weapons, but they don't take out the Houthis. Because why? It's a pro-Iranian regime. Now, let me explain where this comes from. It's a propaganda piece. And this is how stupid our people in the State House in the United States is. The propaganda piece came out of Nazi Germany. And when the West was watching what was happening to Nazi Germany, the Nazi propagandists came out and said, hey, look, we have moderates in Nazi Germany, and then we have hardliners. The hardliners are Goebbels and Himmler, but the moderates are Hitler. So we want you guys to work with Hitler because you're not going to be able to stop Germany's rise to getting back to its strategic power and its warfare and its economy. So work with the moderates and ignore the hardliners. That same propaganda was used in Russia and is now being used in Iran. And a United States policy is this: we will work with the moderates in Iran, not the hardliners, and therefore we will allow the hardliners to do stupid things like blow up ships, take over ships, attack Israel, so that we can win over the moderates, and then the people will come with the moderates, and then we can have regional stability. That's how crazy America's policy is right now.
That's totally insane. Well, we have a president whose mind is gone. So you have these other people. We think of Romans chapter 1, where people are given over to a reprobate mind. Hence, they can't even make a decision in their own best interest. And these wild things that are taking place. Now, this is interesting, too, in light of everything that you're saying. You may have received the same text. It's regarding a couple of people that were leading our group. And it says, okay, everybody, news from the front. This is last night. Hamas is now trapped between the Egyptian border and the IDF at Rafah. Much of the reserves have been discharged. No big battles, no more rockets from Gaza, closing in search for hostages, special forces. Hamas is trying for a ceasefire. The country is functioning as usual. Maybe there will be peace in Gaza. Please keep in mind that Israel does not bomb indiscriminately. Every bomb has an address. Then this most interesting statement: we just need somebody to rule and control the place afterwards. Israel will not do it. And then this statement, this is really interesting, Brandon.
Yeah.
They should send college students from Harvard and Columbia to give them college credits. You gotta love that. But that's great. But But this comes from somebody in Israel saying Israel is not going to be the one to rule over Gaza, which has been a lot of the accusation. Israel's behind this. They want to take Gaza back, and they're in it for the money and all that. And Israel's saying, no, we want somebody else to rule that. And I see that is what is going to develop out of this.
Mm-hmm. Well, what Blinken has suggested is that Israel work in cooperation with the UN, and the UN wants to rebuild the Gaza area along with other nations, like the United States and Britain. But one of the things that Israel's concerned about is the Hamas terrorists pretending to be civilians, and then them being moved back into the northern area of Gaza, and then you have the same problem happening again. And so you're right that they want to rebuild the area, and Israel doesn't want to rule it, but they don't know what the solution is, who should rule it. They definitely don't want a boss ruling it because he can't keep things together. But they're mainly concerned about really, well, here, let me put it this way. Being on the ground, I've talked to the soldiers, I talked to the hostages in Hostage Square, I've talked to the people on the ground, I've heard reports of people in Israel. There's virtually no difference between a Gaza civilian and Hamas, because the Gaza civilians support Hamas. I mean, for goodness sakes, the hostages were saying that they were held by families with kids and mothers and stuff that were holding them hostage. And so what you start seeing, and then I have the poll numbers. Like 86% of the civilians, so-called in Gaza, supported what Hamas did. And so there's really no difference between the civilians. And just talking to the soldiers, they said the same thing. So Israel's got a problem on their hands. And it's not just in Gaza, but it's in Judea and Samaria. So who do you let run that? UNRWA? UNRWA was is nothing but a group of supporting Hamas. We were in the UN. You were right there when we saw the UN trucks come in through. Remember?
Through Jaffa Gate. Yeah,
they looked like drug lords or something like that. I mean, it's just they're horrible looking. You could tell that these were scoundrels. They look like pirates, but that's the problem Israel faces. So what's Israel going to do? You have an existential threat there still in Gaza, and then you have an existential threat in the north. It's like Gallant said, we're fighting a war on 6 fronts now. What do you want us to do? And here's the problem. Israel is not manufacturing their own weapons, and therefore they're at the disposal of whatever America tells them to do. America is treating Israel not as a sovereign state, but as a vassal state, telling Israel, you will do this, you will do that, otherwise we're not going to help you. And so Israel is in a very precarious position, and I think for Israel, for its own survival, is going to eventually have to break away from the United States and say, look, you're putting us in a position that we can't win. And Israel's going to have to change their military strategy. No doubt about it. Their military strategy is terrible. I hate to tell you that. But look, Tom, what has Israel's strategy has been militarily? So we give up the Gaza to the Gazans in 2005. What do? Turn the whole place into a bomb factory. Then we build walls. What do they do with the walls? They send missiles over the walls and they dig tunnels under the walls. Then we retreat and give settlements back. What do? They keep attacking us. And then now to the north, they want us to create a buffer zone up to that one river. I can't remember the river that's up there. A buffer zone, and have the stupid Lebanese army keep it as a buffer zone, which is not going to stop it.
Yeah, like that's a good idea.
Yeah, that's stupid. And then they want them to give over the farms there in that area, which is nothing but the Golan Heights. So give up land for peace. What militarily is that to Israel's advantage? All Israel is doing tit for tat. Taking a strategic target, but they're never going after the big question. You have to deal with Iran. You have to take them out. You have to take the Houthis out. You have to take Hezbollah out. If you don't, Israel won't survive. And I think that's where the crossroads is coming between the United States and Israel, and that breakaway that's predicted in Scripture where Israel will be isolated, I think is going to come to fruition because of that.
It's going to have to get to that point. We know God is moving Israel to a place of repentance and surrender to him, but Israel's always looked to somebody else to save them. It's been throughout their history. Okay, so now they got to break away from the U.S. I would agree. Will it happen? You mentioned something when you were in Israel. We both had the opportunity to interview different people, but one thing we both noticed is how many people in Israel, just general population, at least as of a week ago, thought Biden is wonderful.
I know.
And you brought up there's like this delusion that's there. You see people open to Jesus before in a way we've never seen before. But at the same time, there's this Biden, I mean, pretty much everybody in the world can see something's wrong with that guy. But they seem to think he's wonderful. And they are set up for someone, even as this text says, Israel does not want to rule. So they're looking for who is going to be the person that's going to come along, the entity that's going to come along and promise that from now on, you're safe, peace and safety. That day is coming, and as you mentioned, Israel, they're set up for it.
Well, you think about it. Okay, so Israel realizes it has to start building up its army because it's been downgrading its military for the last 30 years. And then again, dependent on America's supply of weaponry. Israel doesn't have time to build up a bunch of weaponry. They don't have years. They have like months. And I don't think they can get it all done. So again, if I go back to the Old Testament, Tom, what's Israel's default all the time? They make alliances with the wrong nations, always. And God would warn them, don't make an alliance with this nation. They're going to burn you. They're going to burn you. And what would Israel do? Make an alliance. And so if they're not going to find an alliance with America, and that looks like it's coming up short. So, and if we're in the prophetic scenario, which I believe we are, then of course the Antichrist is the man that's going to come with the plan saying, look, I'm going to be your guy. I'll protect you. Don't worry about it. And what is the hallmark of the Antichrist? If you look at chapter 11 of Daniel, he's a man of war. He worships the god of war. It's what he says. And he's a god of armaments and stuff like that and fortresses. Well, that's what Israel will need, is someone to guard them from all that. Because you think about the other invasions that's going to happen to Israel, possibly a Psalm 83 invasion, a Gog of Magog invasion. I mean, after that, I mean, Israel's going to be just totally war fatigued, can't fight anymore. They're done. And they're going to say, hey, please, someone help us. And the Antichrist walks right on the scene and says, I got it covered, guys. Don't worry. Make a covenant with me. I'll be your protector. No one will mess with you. And they will for at least 3.5 years. So the setup is this. And then just like I pointed out to you in Israel, dude, if you cannot see how Biden is speaking out of both sides of his mouth, how are you going to see the Antichrist?
Yeah, well, indeed. You know, Brandon, I think of all of these different things, the great news is the hope that there is in Jesus Christ. And we see Israel, people opening up to, and listen, I'm not saying, as you know, I'm not saying everybody that all of Israel is suddenly wanting to receive Jesus. That is not the case. And we know going into the tribulation, that's not going to be the case. But there is an openness now. And you know, I thank the Lord for ministries like Gihon Springs, Nativa, and these others, One for Israel, that are out there there is, you know, when I look at Israel, there's really a darkness there. You have Islam, you have a lot of atheism that's there, total rejection of God, but at the same time, there's a lot of, when you look at tour groups, tours are starting back up. I'm going back there in March, I found out last night.
Oh, wow.
So with our group, they're opening, they've got it, they say, hey, we're good to go. And as you know, I mean, didn't you feel safe when you were there?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I didn't feel any threats whatsoever, so it was totally safe. Yeah.
It was, I'm looking forward to going back already with the group. But we look at, there's so much light that still pours into Israel. Dark, but I mean, you look at all the Christian groups, all the ministries that like this, that like ours, that talk about these things. The light of Jesus is poured out, and ultimately, this is our hope. And we know that Jesus is coming again. You have any final thoughts just on that hope that we have?
I think I saw it on the ground there, and we've been seeing it when we were helping out IDF troops and their units, is we've been helping them. We've got them drones and stuff. And one of the drones was able to find a tunnel for them, and we bulletproof vests and stuff. And what's happened is it's opened their hearts to say, hey, look, the rest of the world hates us, but for some reason, these certain Christians like us and love us and actually are helping us. Why is that? And working through Nativa and a lot of the Messianic believers on the ground, we've been able to share the gospel with them, and the IDF soldiers have been open to it. And now we're getting ready to help the families that have been displaced. And the same thing, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to use the Messianic believers and tell them we're doing this because of Yeshua. And you're right, Tom. This has been a positive thing that has destabilized them to be open to the gospel. So it's a really good time to see people get saved.
Amen. It is. And again, I just want to remind everybody with the Australia live stream, the proceeds are going to these the Messianic outreach there in Israel. Brandon, I want you to be ready for whatever else you got to do in ministry, so I'm going to let you go. I'm going to let you go even right now, and I want to thank you for your time. I know we'll be meeting the next time we see each other face to face, just a couple weeks out at Los Angeles International Airport. Get to be there again. That's the danger spot. It's not Israel, it's LAX. That's where the problems are.
That's right.
All right. Thank you, Brandon. Tell everybody to say hi. All right.
Take care.
God bless you, everybody.